Well, PrimeSafe is the statutory body that provides abattoirs with a licence to operate in Victoria. Its chief executive is Brian Casey. Brian Casey, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Why did you act immediately to shut down this abattoir at Trafalgar?
Having viewed the video footage, what I did was I immediately issued a direction to the abattoir that they were to stop processing and to not process any animals until such time as we had the opportunity to meet with them the following day, which was on Friday. What happened was that we, having met with them on the Friday, having shown them the video footage and having asked them some questions about the nature of that footage, I told them that the direction to remain not operating was to remain in place, and that we would commence an investigation into all of the circumstances surrounding that video footage, basically to establish was there any systemic failure of their management systems.
Have you identified that?
No, we haven't got to that point. And on Tuesday, the family decided to elect to cancel their licence, submitted that advice to PrimeSafe, and on that basis PrimeSafe cancelled their licence.
So the family have admitted fault?
They didn't need to admit fault. It was a matter for them to decide the future of their licence, and what I'm saying is that they decided to cancel their licence.
The owners seemed very shocked at the immediate action that you took, and farmers, in fact, in the region said that they believe the abattoir should be given a second chance. Why weren't they given a second chance?
Well, I think that there's two parts to that. The first is that the immediate action we took, and in fact the only action we took, was to preclude them from processing pending an investigation. The fact that they weren't given a second chance, or that wasn't even an issue, was precluded in any case because they elected to cancel their licence.
Were there previous allegations of mistreatment and cruelty or evidence of that at this facility?
We did not have that evidence, and we did not have any indication of that in the past.
So they'd passed all the checks and that you require them to?
The quality assurance program is absolutely intact, and the requirements for slaughter of animals as described in that program are perfectly acceptable and totally within the requirements of the appropriate standards. The issue was that the video footage showed evidence that the requirements of the quality assurance program were being just totally ignored. The
worker in the video is heard, it was fully aware that he was being filmed. Clearly this was standard practice at this particular abattoir. What does that tell you? I think that the issue is that on the day in question, that is clearly what happened. There is equipment within that abattoir to enable them to slaughter the animal as they are supposed to do under their own quality assurance program. They actually have a restraint box within the abattoir. The intention is that animals are slaughtered individually. So an animal is run up on its own, the animal is placed into the restraint box, it's appropriately stunned, and then the animal is slaughtered. And that way there is no pain involved in the process. What happened in this case is that there is evidence of a clear breach of their own quality assurance arrangements. You said that they, in fact, this facility was clearly carrying out all the paperwork as it was appropriate to do so. This evidence was captured by a volunteer working for Animals Australia, not anyone carrying out an audit, as they are required to comply with. How do we know this isn't happening at other abattoirs? I think that it's important to understand that there is a comprehensive regulatory system in place. What happens is that all abattoirs right across Victoria are subject to a regular audit regime. But on that exact point, that clearly isn't enough. And I would agree with you. What happens is that all abattoirs are subject to a regular audit schedule. If there are deficiencies identified, that audit frequency is increased. In addition to that, PrimeSafe conducts random sampling programs where we may attend a facility at any time. We also have a very, very comprehensive system of complaints, and the issue that was raised by Animals Australia was actually dealt with under exactly that system. Are you confident this isn't happening in other abattoirs? I am very confident, but if I can just make the point, what PrimeSafe has done is that on Monday and Tuesday of this week, although we had no evidence to the contrary, and although all of the inspection processes which we had undertaken to date proved to be effective and showed no non-compliance, we separately investigated each and every abattoir which is of the size of the Giles abattoir or less.
to ensure that they had in place appropriate procedures for restraint of animals and appropriate equipment to do so as well, appropriate procedures for stunning of animals and equipment, and then the slaughtering process can take place.
And what did you find?
They were all fully compliant.
Did they know they were being inspected at the time?
In fact, that's quite correct. They did, because a lot of these abattoirs only slaughter on odd days, and sending the staff all over the state in that time frame was seen to be rather senseless. But I do point out that this was in addition to our normal inspection process. In relation to larger abattoirs, we didn't go to them because if you wish to slaughter significant numbers of animals, you can't do so without having some quite comprehensive equipment in place and some quite detailed procedures. You also have a substantial number of staff and a substantial number of PrimeSafe registered inspectors on site.
Going to the CCTV footage in Abattoirs Animals Australia has raised the idea that should be in place. Do you agree with that?
If Animals Australia or anyone else wishes to pursue the issue of CCTV as an option, what they would need to do is to put that to a national framework. It's fairly pointless to only introduce arrangements within one state of Australia.
But do you personally think that would be a good idea for the industry?
I think that it's really a matter that ought to be considered in a proper national framework within a proper context.
Brian Casey, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.